In a small town by a quiet river, a simple lantern changes many lives. This is a story about courage, kindness, and small choices that make a big difference. Meet Ayan, a shy teenager who wants to help his mother and find his voice. Meet Zara, a smart girl who believes in second chances. Meet Dada G, a guide with a calm smile and a warm cup of tea. Over 7 nights, a strange light appears on the hill. Each night, someone faces a fear, tells the truth, or shows kindness. The lantern grows brighter, and so do they. This is not a story about magic tricks. It is about hope, and how hope grows when we share it. Stay with me as we walk through Nurabad, step by step, and see how a small light can show us a big path. This is the Lantern of Hope. Ayan lived in Nurabad, a small, peaceful town by a slow and lazy river. The river flowed like time itself, gentle, patient, and calm. The houses were low and close together, their walls painted with years of dust and stories. In the mornings, you could hear the call of the roosters and the laughter of children running barefoot down the narrow streets. In the evenings, the air smelled of fried snacks, tea, and wood smoke. Nurabad was not rich, but it was full of life. Ayan was 16 years old, tall but thin, with hair that never stayed in one place. His eyes were soft, always searching for something he could not name. He helped his mother, Ami, at her small tea stall near the old bridge. The stall was made of wood and tin with 2 benches, a big kettle, and shelves full of glass cups. Every morning, Ami made sweet, milky tea that people said tasted like comfort. Ayan loved helping her, fixing small things that broke: the fan, the kettle, the radio. He was good with his hands, but quiet with his words. He didn't talk much, not because he had nothing to say, but because he didn't know if people would listen. He often kept his thoughts like small treasures hidden inside his heart. His father had left when Ayan was only 8. No one knew exactly where he went. Some said he found work in another city. Others whispered that he never planned to come back. Ami never said a bad word about him, but Ayan could feel her pain in the way she looked out the window some nights, eyes lost in the darkness. Ayan remembered those nights too. He would lie on the floor staring at the ceiling, trying to remember his father's voice. But memory fades like old ink. All he could recall was a laugh, deep and warm, and a hand that once fixed his broken toy car. After that, silence. One evening, the sky turned the color of burnt orange. Clouds gathered heavy and dark. The smell of rain floated through the town. Ayan sat at the stall, repairing a small radio someone had brought that morning. Zara, his classmate, stopped by, holding a notebook and a pencil. "Still fixing things, Ayan?" she teased. He smiled shyly. "Trying to." "This one doesn't like me," Zara laughed. She was different from the other kids, sharp, confident, and always full of questions. She wanted to be an engineer one day. "Machines like you," she said. "They just act shy at first." Before Ayan could answer, the radio clicked on suddenly. A man's voice filled the air, talking about the weather. "Storm coming tonight," it said. Ayan grinned proudly. "See? I told you it was just shy." Zara smiled, but before she could reply, the power went out across Nurabad. The lights blinked, flickered, then disappeared. The whole town fell into deep shadow. "Oh no," Ami said from inside the stall. "Not again. Every time it rains." People began lighting candles and old lanterns. The sound of thunder rolled across the sky. But then, something strange caught Ayan's eye. Up on the far hill, beyond the fields, a single light glowed, steady and golden. It was not lightning, and it was not a house lamp. It looked like a lantern, shining bright in the storm. "Do you see that?" Ayan pointed. Zara squinted. "Yes, but who would go there in this weather?" "No one lives there," Ami said quietly. "That hill is empty, but the light stayed. It didn't move or fade. It looked almost alive." Ayan felt a pull in his chest, a strange curiosity mixed with fear. Zara looked at him and grinned. "Let's go see." "What, now?" he asked, surprised. "Of course now, before someone else does," Ami heard them whispering. "Ayan, don't go far. The storm is coming," she warned. He nodded, but his eyes were already on the hill. Zara wrapped her shawl around her shoulders, and together they walked into the rain. The path was slippery, and their shoes sank in the mud. Wind brushed against their faces, and rain fell in soft sheets. The trees on both sides whispered and shook. It felt like the world was watching them. Maybe it's just an old lamp, Ayan said, though his heart beat faster. Maybe, Zara replied, or maybe it's something waiting. When they finally reached the top, they stopped, not because they were tired, but because they were surprised. There, hanging from a low branch of an old tree, was a beautiful brass lantern. It burned bright, even though the rain fell all around. The flame danced but never went out. Beneath the lantern, tied with a small string, hung a note. The paper moved softly in the wind. Zara stepped closer and read it aloud. "Leave what weighs you down." They looked at each other. "What does that mean?" she asked. Ayan didn't know. He touched the note carefully, as if it might disappear. The words felt simple but deep, like they were waiting for someone to understand. Suddenly, a sound came from behind them, the soft tap of a wooden stick on stone. They turned around quickly. An old man was walking up the path, wearing a long shawl and carrying a wooden cane. His beard was white, his eyes kind. "Peace be upon you," he said. "I am Dada G. Did you put this lantern here?" Ayan asked. The old man smiled. "No, my child. The lantern belongs to the people who need it." Zara tilted her head. "People like us?" He nodded slowly. "Maybe the hill listens. The lantern keeps what is too heavy for your heart. You can leave your burdens here." "But how?" Ayan asked. "By telling the truth," Dada G said. "Write it. Speak it. Admit it. Whatever pain you carry, the lantern takes it when it is spoken honestly." Ayan frowned. "That sounds strange," the old man chuckled. "Truth often does." He pointed to a small wooden box near the tree roots. "There are pieces of paper and thread. Write something you never said before, something real. Tie it to the branch. Then watch." Zara looked curious. "Does it really work?" Dada G shrugged. "Only if you mean it." Ayan stared at the paper. He thought of his father. The years of anger he never spoke. The way he sometimes felt guilty for missing him. His throat tightened. Slowly, he took the pencil and wrote, "I am angry at someone who left me." He tied the paper to the branch. The moment he let go, the lantern flickered. Once, twice, and then glowed brighter. The warm light touched his face. For the first time in years, he felt something lift from his chest. Not completely gone, but lighter. Zara's eyes widened. "Did you see that?" "Yes," Ayan whispered. "It changed." Dada G nodded softly. "Truth shines even in the rain." Zara took a paper too. She thought for a while and wrote, "I miss the way things used to be." When she tied it next to Ayan's, the two notes danced together in the wind. The lantern glowed again, brighter than before. They stayed there a while, standing in silence. The storm had calmed. The rain had slowed to a soft drizzle. The town below looked peaceful again, small lights returning as electricity flickered back. Zara looked at the lantern. "Who started this?" Dada G smiled. "No one knows. Maybe a traveler. Maybe the hill itself. Every time someone leaves truth here, the light grows. And when the light grows, the town feels it." Ayan looked back down at Noorabad. He thought of Ami, waiting at the stall, worried but patient. "Do you think it will help her too?" he asked. The old man's eyes twinkled. "When one person becomes lighter, everyone around them feels a little lighter too." Zara smiled. "Then we should come again tomorrow." Dada G nodded. "Yes, each night the lantern listens. Each night it waits." As they walked back down, Ayan felt quiet inside. Not heavy, not sad, just quiet. He looked over his shoulder once more. The lantern still burned, a tiny sun against the dark sky. The notes around it fluttered like small wings. For the first time, Ayan felt that maybe the world was listening. Maybe the hill really did keep secrets safe. Maybe truth had its own kind of magic. Not the kind that turned stones into gold, but the kind that turned pain into peace. When they reached the bottom of the hill, the river shimmered softly beside them. Zara broke the silence. "You know," she said, "I think the lantern was waiting for you." Ayan laughed quietly. "Why me?" "Because you saw it first," she said. "And maybe because you needed it most." He didn't answer. He just smiled, a real smile this time, and said, "Let's see what happens tomorrow." And as the two friends walked home under the gentle rain, the hill behind them glowed softly, one small light in a dark, quiet world. Morning came softly to Nurabad. The storm had passed, but the smell of wet earth still filled the air. The river shimmered under the sun, and the town woke slowly. People whispered about the strange light that had appeared on the hill the night before. Some said it was a spirit. Others said it was a trick. A few laughed and said, "Children's stories, nothing more." But in every shop and every home, the talk of the lantern moved like quiet wind. At the tea stall, Ami poured steaming tea for the early workers. Ayan sat beside her, still thinking about what he had seen. His eyes carried the soft glow of the lantern, as if a little of its light had stayed with him. Zara arrived soon after, holding her notebook against her chest. She smiled. "You didn't dream it, right?" Ayan shook his head. "No dream. It was real." "The old man, the lantern, the note, everything." Ami looked at them curiously. "You two went to that hill again?" "Ayan, that place isn't safe at night." "It was peaceful, Ami," Ayan said. "And I felt lighter. I wrote something there." Ami wanted to ask more, but a customer called her name. Zara leaned closer and whispered, "We should go again tonight." "Maybe more people have left notes," Ayan hesitated. "What if someone gets angry? Or laughs at us?" Zara smiled softly. "Then let them laugh. Truth doesn't care who believes it." That evening, the sky turned orange again. Nurabad looked calm, washed clean by the rain. When Ayan and Zara reached the path to the hill, they found footprints on the wet ground. They weren't the only ones coming back. A group of children were walking ahead, carrying small pieces of paper. Behind them, a few adults followed slowly, curious but unsure. When they reached the top, the lantern was already glowing. It seemed brighter than before, as if it remembered the voices from the night before. Small papers hung from the old tree like tiny flags dancing in the breeze. Ayan read one. "I failed my exam." Another said, "I broke my mother's cup and lied." Each note was simple but honest, and together they made the air feel softer. Zara touched one gently. "So many truths," she whispered. Dadaji appeared again, walking slowly up the path with his wooden cane. His shawl was dry this time, and his eyes twinkled. "Ah," he said, "you came back. The lantern keeps its promise. It always shines for those who return." Ayan smiled shyly. "There are more notes now." "Yes," Dadaji said, looking around. "Truth spreads faster than gossip if you give it light." The children laughed and ran to the wooden box, eager to write their secrets. One boy said, "Can we leave things that make us feel bad?" Dadaji nodded. "Yes, but write them first. Words make pain lighter." The children began writing. "I took my friend's toy. I said something mean." They giggled nervously but tied their papers to the branches. When they stepped back, the lantern flickered twice, and a soft bell-like sound rang through the hilltop. Zara's eyes widened. "It's like the lantern can hear." "Maybe it can," Dadaji said. "But maybe it is your hearts that are listening." Zara stood quietly for a long moment. She wanted to write something, but her hand trembled. She looked at Ayan. "There's something I need to say tonight." Ayan nodded. "Write it. No one will judge you here." She took a deep breath and wrote, "I am afraid to ask for what I want." She tied the note carefully to the tree. The lantern glowed softly, as if approving. Dadaji came closer. "What do you want, child?" Zara looked at the hill, then the stars above. "I want to study engineering in the city. My brother says it's too far, too hard, and not for girls like me. But I can't stop thinking about it." Dadaji smiled kindly. "Dreams are heavy until you share them. Now it will feel lighter. But my brother—" Zara began, but stopped when she heard footsteps behind her. Farhan stood there, tall and serious, his clothes still damp from his walk. "Zara," he said quietly, "I knew I'd find you here." The children grew silent. Ayan stepped forward, but Dadaji lifted his hand gently. "Let them talk." Farhan's voice was calm but tired. "What are you doing up here with these people in this light? Everyone in town is talking. You'll bring trouble." Zara met his eyes. "We're not doing harm. We're telling truth," Farhan sighed. "Truth doesn't pay bills or feed Ami." "No," she said softly, but lies make us smaller. He looked at her confused. What are you talking about? Zara pointed to her note fluttering in the wind. That's mine. I'm afraid to ask for what I want, but I still wrote it. Farhan stepped closer and read it silently. For a moment his face softened. He looked around at the glowing lantern and the quiet faces. The golden light painted everything with peace. I just don't want you to get hurt, he said finally. Dreams can break hearts, Zara smiled. So can silence. The lantern flickered again, brighter this time. The children gasped. The old tree's leaves shimmered like tiny stars. Dadaji chuckled softly. Ah, you see, when truth meets understanding, light grows stronger. Ayan turned to Farhan. We all left something here. Maybe you should too. Farhan looked uncertain. Me? Why not? Zara said. You carry worries too. He hesitated, then took a piece of paper. He wrote slowly, his hand shaking. When he finished, he tied it to the lowest branch. The paper read, I am afraid to lose my sister. Zara's eyes filled with tears. She reached out and held his hand. You won't, she whispered. The lantern shone brighter, warm and steady. The rain had stopped completely, and the air smelled of new beginnings. A soft wind blew through the tree, lifting the papers gently as if the hill itself was breathing. Dadaji looked up at the glowing lantern. Tonight, he said, you all learned that honesty is not weakness. It is courage in its purest form. Ayan nodded quietly. He felt proud, not of himself, but of everyone who had spoken the truth. He looked at Zara and said, See? You didn't just write your dream. You made someone believe in it too. She smiled, wiping a tear from her cheek. Maybe the lantern isn't magic. Maybe it just reminds us how to be brave. As they walked back down the hill, the lantern's light followed them, shining through the mist. Below, Nurabad looked calm and alive again, windows glowing, smoke rising, and laughter floating through the air. For the first time, Zara's steps felt lighter. Farhan walked beside her quietly, holding the umbrella over them both. Ayan followed behind, looking once more at the hill. The lantern was still glowing, strong and golden, surrounded by tiny papers that fluttered like hearts set free, and deep inside, each of them knew they would return again, because some truths need more than one night to shine. The third night came with a clear sky. Nurabad looked washed and calm, like a book with a fresh page. The river moved slowly, carrying thin ribbons of moonlight. Street dogs lay curled near doorways. From the tea stall, a thin trail of steam rose into the cool air. Ayan tightened the cap on a small bottle of oil and placed it beside the tools he kept in a cloth pouch. He felt ready for something, though he didn't know what. Going up again? Ami asked, pouring tea into 2 glass cups. Yes, Ayan said. It feels important. Ami looked at him for a long second, then nodded. Sometimes the heart knows before the head does. Take this tea to Dadaji if you see him. Ayan smiled and slipped the 2 cups into a little carrier he had made from a wire coat hanger. He added sugar in a small paper twist the way Dadaji liked. Then he lifted his repaired radio, light now, with a clean dial and a small cloth tied around the handle. On the way to the hill, he met Zara at the base of the path. She wore a simple scarf and carried a notebook and pencil. You brought the radio? She said, surprised. I thought maybe the lantern would like music, Ayan joked. Then felt shy and added, or maybe the people will. Zara's eyes were bright. I think both. They started up the path. The grass was still wet from yesterday's rain, but the earth held firm. They walked in an easy silence, stopping once to watch fireflies blink over a patch of wildflowers. When they reached the top, the lantern glowed steady and warm. More notes hung from the old tree now, small white squares stirring like birds ready to fly. Dadaji stood under the lantern with his cane, speaking softly to Madame Naila, the strict, fair teacher from school. Madame Naila's hair was tied neatly, but her face looked tired. Good evening, she said to Ayan and Zara, trying to smile. Ayan set the tea down on a flat stone. Ami sent this for you, Dadaji. Bless her hands, Dadaji said, accepting a cup. He offered the other to Madame Naila, who wrapped both palms around the glass as if it were a tiny fire. I have words for the branch, Madame Naila said after a sip. But I am not brave. You are here, Dadaji answered. That is where bravery begins. She exhaled, took a small paper, and wrote carefully, I push my students too hard. I forget to ask if they are okay. When she tied the note to the branch, the lantern brightened with a soft, living breath. The light brushed her face, and for a moment the lines of worry smoothed. Ayan set the radio on the stone and turned the dial. A light hiss, a few crackles, and then a soft old song floated into the air. Low strings, a gentle voice, the kind of melody that makes people remember good things they once forgot. The lantern's glass reflected tiny stars as the music wrapped around the hilltop. Music, Dadaji said, smiling, comes easily when truth makes space. People arrived slowly, as they did now each night. A mother with a sleepy baby, two brothers who had fought over a cricket bat, a tailor whose needle pricked his own finger more than once that day. They came with their small hurts and simple hopes. They wrote. They tied. They stood quiet. They breathed easier. Near the end of the path, a man paused as if unsure whether to move forward or turn back. He wore a pale shirt and carried years of impatience around his eyes. Ayan recognized him, Rafi, who ran the hardware shop. He was known for his quick anger. Children copied his loud voice when he passed, and then hid behind doorways. Tonight, Rafi looked smaller, or perhaps just more human. He came closer, swallowed, and glanced at the lantern like someone meeting a difficult truth at last. Good evening, Zara said gently. Rafi nodded. My son told me about this place. I thought it was a joke. His voice cracked on the last word. But I am tired of my own shouting. Dadaji offered him a paper. Rafi held it for a long time. He looked at the tree, the notes, the lantern, then at his hands. The same hands that slammed the counter, threw a wrench, made a child flinch. He wrote slowly, each stroke heavy. I am sorry to my son. When he tied the note to the branch, the lantern flashed bright, just for a heartbeat, and then softened to its usual glow. Rafi's shoulders fell. He covered his face with one hand and stood very still. No one said, it's okay. No one rushed to fix the moment. They let the silence hold him, like a net that does not trap but saves. Madame Naila set her tea down and walked to him. Tomorrow, she said quietly, bring your son to school. I will speak to both of you. Rafi nodded. The radio played a short, hopeful phrase. Something inside the night seemed to unclench. A small girl tugged at Zara's sleeve. Miss, she whispered, is the lantern magic? Zara knelt. Maybe the magic is in the truth, she said. The lantern just reminds us, the girl frowned. But why does it ring like a bell? Zara smiled and looked at Dadaji, who had already heard the question. He held up his cane and tapped it gently against the stone. Ting. Because there is music in honesty. You just needed a quiet place to hear it. A breeze moved through the leaves, and the papers made a soft rustle like applause. Ayan turned the radio down so the hill could listen. He felt a warmth that did not come only from the lantern. It came from seeing strangers be brave, from watching hard lines soften, from hearing the teacher speak with care and the shopkeeper say, sorry. Do you miss your father? Zara asked suddenly, her voice so soft that only the two of them could hear. Ayan looked at the lantern. Yes, he said. And I am also angry. Both are true at the same time. Zara nodded. Then you are already honest. He thought of the night his father left, the broken sandal strap, the door not fully shut, the way he had wanted to run but his legs would not move. He had tried to forget that feeling for years. Tonight he did not try to forget. He looked at it without fear, as if it were a photograph in a family album. Sad, yes, but part of the whole story. More notes went up. I gossiped about my neighbor. I ate the mango meant for my little sister. I pretend to be strong and it makes me tired. Each time a paper fluttered into place, the lantern shifted, as if breath passed through it. Will the lantern ever go out? Someone asked. It will, Dadaji said, if we stop feeding it truth. Light can live on many fuels, oil, wick, courage. Rafi lingered at the edge of the circle. He stared at the note that carried his apology. I don't know how to be different, he admitted. Madame Nayla stepped closer. You were different for 1 minute. Tomorrow, try for 2. That is how change begins in minutes. Rafi laughed once, surprised by the gentleness in her advice. 2 minutes, he said. I can try. Ayan adjusted the radio antenna. The song changed, then settled again, a little brighter. He imagined sound moving through the town, over the roofs, down the alleys, across the quiet river, finding people who had not yet climbed the hill and telling them, without words, that something kind was happening up here. The moon rose higher. The lantern's glow softened from gold to honey. People started to descend the path, slowly as if they did not want to break the spell. The child with the questions waved at Zara. Rafi shook Dadaji's hand. Madame Nayla stood for a while by the tree, then whispered a prayer only she could hear. At last, only 3 remained: Ayan, Zara, and Dadaji. The old man sat on the stone and finished his tea. You both have changed, he said. Not into new people, into more honest versions of yourselves. Is that enough? Ayan asked. For a lantern? Dadaji said with a smile. More than enough. For a life? It is the only safe foundation. They began the walk down. The path seemed shorter tonight. Ayan did not know if the hill had become kinder or if his feet had learned the way. At the base, he stopped and looked back. The lantern was a small star in the branches. The notes shivered like white birds about to lift. Zara touched the notebook at her side. Tomorrow, she said, I will write something bigger. Your dream? Ayan asked. My plan, she replied. A dream is soft. A plan is a bridge, he grinned. You would build a bridge out of words. Why not? She said. Words carried us up this hill. They parted near the bridge where Ami's stall glowed with a single bulb. Ayan handed the empty tea carrier to his mother. She looked at his face and saw a light there that did not belong to electricity. She said nothing. She only put a second roti on his plate. That night, Ayan lay in bed and listened to the quiet. He heard the distant river, a scooter passing, a dog shifting. He also heard, in the part of silence where thoughts live, the soft ring of the lantern, the sound it made when someone told the truth. He closed his eyes. He did not push away the memory of his father's leaving or pull it closer. He let it sit beside him, not as an enemy, but as a guest who had stayed too long and would one day finally go. On the hill, the lantern kept watch, and in Noorabad, a small music began to grow inside many hearts, steady and brave, like a flame learning how to become a sunrise. Rain returned to Noorabad the next afternoon, not a loud storm, but a steady, patient rain that cleaned the smell of dust from the streets. The river rose a little and carried thin leaves along its wide back. The tin roofs made a soft music, and smoke from cooking fires curled into the wet air like writing. At the tea stall, Ami served hot pakoras and extra strong tea. People came in with damp shawls and cold hands, and they left warmer. Ayan wiped the counter between customers, watching the gray sky and the bridge where drops fell in neat lines. He felt a quiet pull in his chest when he thought about the hill and the lantern. Zara arrived with her umbrella, water dripping from its edge. She shook it outside and smiled. The rain makes the town look like a painting, Ayan nodded. Are we going again? Yes, she said. I want to write something more. Not just fear and action. An action? Ayan asked. A step, she said. If honesty makes space, I want to fill that space with a plan. Before they left, Ami wrapped a shawl around Ayan's shoulders and pressed a small packet into his hand. Jaggery, she said. Sweet things help on wet nights. They walked together under one umbrella until the path grew narrow and the grass brushed their legs. The world smelled like wet leaves and earth. The hill looked softer in the rain, as if it had put on a shawl, too. When they reached the top, the lantern burned as if the weather belonged to it. The flame moved like a dancer behind the glass, never afraid, always steady. Notes from last night still hung on the old tree, darker now from the damp air, but strong. New papers had already joined them. A few children were there, writing with careful hands. A young mother rocked a baby who cried and cried, tired of the rain and the long day. Two brothers argued in whispers over whose turn it was to write first. Dadaji stood beside the tree with his cane, his shawl pulled tight. "Welcome," he said, smiling through the mist. "The hill keeps no appointments, but it keeps its promises." "What does it promise?" a child asked. "That truth will be held gently," Dadaji said, "and that light will not laugh at you." The young mother stepped forward first, the baby still fussing. She looked exhausted. She took a paper and wrote with quick, small letters, "I am tired and I need help." She tied it to the branch and let out a breath that sounded like a door opening. The baby stopped crying and fell asleep against her shoulder, just like that. She covered the baby's head with the edge of her shawl and gave a short, surprised laugh. "Thank you," she whispered, not to anyone in particular, maybe to the rain. The two brothers came next. They were close in age, both with wet hair sticking to their foreheads. The older one wrote, "I want to be first." The younger one, watching, wrote the same words and then giggled. When they tied their papers side by side, the lantern gave a soft, bright pulse, and both boys laughed at themselves, as if the hill had held up a mirror, and they found their own faces funny and human. Zara stood near the wooden box and stared at the blank paper. Ayan watched her with quiet respect. The rain was light now, almost a mist, and the lantern's glow made everything near it look golden and clean. "What do you want to write?" Ayan asked at last. Zara took a breath. "Yesterday I said I was afraid to ask for what I want. Today I will ask," she wrote slowly with careful strokes. "I will apply to the engineering program this month. I will study every morning before school. I will not hide my dream in silence." She tied the note to the branch and stepped back. The lantern answered with a warm flare that touched her cheeks like a blessing. "Plans are bridges," Dadaji said, as if he had heard her thought. "Dreams are the rivers below them." Zara smiled, her eyes bright. "Then I will keep building." Footsteps sounded on the wet path. A figure climbed toward them, umbrella tilted against the rain. It was Farhan. He reached the top, folded the umbrella, and looked around at the lights, the notes, the faces. He seemed less certain than yesterday, but also less afraid of his own uncertainty. He nodded at Ayan, at Dadaji, at the young mother. He stood next to Zara and said softly, "Show me what you wrote today," she pointed. He read the words twice, slowly, as if they were a recipe that needed the correct order to taste right. Then he nodded. "Good," Zara blinked. "Good?" Farhan's mouth twitched. "I still worry, but I would rather worry beside your courage than rest beside your silence." The lantern made a small sound, like a breath turning into a laugh. Ayan felt the warm truth of Farhan's words travel through him and settle in his own chest. Worry beside courage, that sounded like family. Ayan had been quiet. He looked at the papers, at the faces, at the spaces between the drops of rain where the light traveled. He thought of his father again, not only of the door closing, not only of the broken sandal, but of mornings before that, when the laugh was still in the house and the cup of tea steamed in 2 hands instead of 1. He took a paper. Zara glanced at him, then looked away to give him privacy the way a friend does. Ayan wrote without hurrying, "Baba, I forgive you for leaving." The letters came out clear and even. His hand did not shake. He tied the note to a branch just below the lantern. For a moment, nothing changed. Then the light deepened. Not brighter, not louder. Deeper, like water that suddenly shows its true color when the sun moves. Ayan felt a warmth spread from his chest to his shoulders, then to his hands. The weight he had carried for 8 years did not disappear, but it shifted, like a heavy bag placed on a strong cart. Dadaji touched Ayan's shoulder. "Forgiveness is a tool," he said. "Not to fix the past, but to free the hands that must build the future." Ayan nodded, eyes wet, vision soft. "It feels like that." They stood together in that soft circle of light. The old man, the 2 teenagers, the brother who was learning how to support, the mother who needed help and asked, the boys who had found their mirror, the child who had finally fallen asleep. The hill felt full but not crowded, bright but not loud. "Do we always need to climb here to tell the truth?" a new voice asked. It came from a man in a raincoat who had walked up while they were quiet. "No," Dadaji said. The hill is a teacher, not a prison. It is easier to learn in a quiet room. Later, you must live in a noisy market and still remember the lesson. What is the lesson? The man asked. That pain grows in shadows, Dadaji said simply, and that small honest words can carry more weight than loud false ones. The man nodded and took a paper. He did not read it aloud, and no one asked him to. The lantern listened and kept his secret safely among the others. The rain thinned to a shimmer. Clouds opened in pale strips, and one faint star showed itself above the hill, unsure but brave. The baby sighed in sleep. The brothers traced each other's names in the wet dust with their toes. Farhan leaned closer to Zara and said, "Tomorrow I will watch the stall early so you can study." "Thank you," she said, surprised. "I will make the tea too." "Maybe not as sweet," he added, trying to joke. "We will fix it," she said, and he smiled because that sentence felt bigger than tea. Ayan lifted his eyes to the lantern one more time. The glass had fogged a little from the difference between the warm flame and the cool rain. The flame looked like the heart of the town, beating carefully but steadily. They began to walk down. The path, almost shining now, seemed to know their feet. Farhan offered the umbrella over Ayan and Zara both, and they did not say no. The young mother waited for the two brothers, who had stopped to splash in a puddle, then called them in a voice softer than before. The man in the raincoat took out his phone, then put it away without taking a picture. Some things are for memory, not for proof. At the bottom of the hill, Nurabad spread out like a patient animal, breathing, resting, ready for the next day. Lamps glowed in windows. A bicycle bell rang. A dog shook water from its fur and trotted to a warm doorway. The world held steady. Zara looked back and then ahead. "Do you think the lantern will always be there?" she asked. "It will be there as long as we need it," Ayan said. "And maybe long after for someone else." "That is a good thought," she said. "It is a good lantern," Ayan replied. They reached the bridge. The tea stall light made a yellow triangle on the wet ground. Ami waved them closer and pushed 2 hot cups into their hands, one with extra sugar for Ayan, one plain for Zara. Farhan took the kettle and refilled another customer's cup without being asked. He moved carefully, like someone who had learned that small acts are a kind of speech. Ayan sipped his tea. Steam rose and touched his face. He closed his eyes and saw the note he had tied on the branch. He did not feel empty. He felt ready. On the hill, a lantern burned in the rain, steady as a heartbeat, and in Nurabad the night stretched long and gentle, like a shawl placed on tired shoulders, while the truth dried slowly on small papers and light found new roads in familiar rooms. The next morning brought sunlight. Nurabad, after many nights of rain, smelled of new beginnings. The sky was bright and pale blue, the kind of sky that makes everything look freshly painted. The river sparkled, washing away pieces of yesterday's storm. At the tea stall, Ami hummed an old tune as she fried pakoras. Zara sat at a corner table, her notebook open, pages filled with plans and calculations. Farhan leaned against the wall nearby, trying to read the list of engineering colleges she had written. "You're really doing this?" he asked, half curious, half proud. "Yes," Zara said simply. "If I get in, I'll need a scholarship. I've been studying every morning before school." Farhan smiled faintly. "You always were the brave one. And you?" she asked. "Will you keep helping at the stall?" "For now," he said, then paused. "But maybe I'll take the night course in business accounting." Dadaji said courage isn't just climbing a hill, it's changing the road you walk every day. Zara's smile widened. "Then we're both climbing in our own ways." Ayan arrived carrying a small paper bag of tools and wires. His face was serious, but his eyes held a light that had nothing to do with the sun. "I think something's happening with the lantern," he said quietly. "Last night I heard its bell again, from my house. Very faint, like it was calling." Zara closed her notebook. "Then we should go tonight." Farhan frowned. "Do you ever rest?" "Maybe after the 7th night," Ayan said, half joking. They all laughed, but something inside them knew that the lantern's story wasn't finished. That evening, Nurabad seemed quieter than usual. Even the vendors' calls were soft, as if the town itself wanted to listen. The sky was clear, the air cool. When Ayan, Zara, and Farhan reached the base of the hill, they saw a few familiar faces climbing ahead. Rafi, the shopkeeper, Madame Naila, the teacher, the two little brothers, and the mother with the baby. Each carried a candle or a paper lantern, small lights of their own. "It looks like the whole town is learning," Zara whispered. The path felt lighter now. There was no mud, only a clean trail marked by soft footprints. The air carried a faint music, bells, or maybe the sound of truth traveling between hearts. When they reached the top, they stopped in awe. The old tree looked transformed. Hundreds of notes now fluttered from its branches, glowing softly under the golden lantern. It was as if the words themselves were made of light. Dadaji was already there, standing by the trunk. He looked older, but his eyes were brighter. "Good evening," he said. "You have brought half the town." "We didn't tell anyone," Ayan said. "You didn't need to," Dadaji smiled. Light invites without shouting. People stood around quietly, their faces soft with wonder. Children pointed at the shining notes. Rafi's son tugged his sleeve and whispered, "Look, Baba, that's your letter." Rafi smiled and placed a hand on his son's head. "Yes, and it's safe there now." The lantern swayed gently in the wind, and its bell rang once, clear and sweet. The sound seemed to spread through the crowd, steadying every heart. Zara looked around. "Why does it feel brighter tonight?" "Because more truths have come," Dadaji said. "The tree remembers them all. It breathes through them." Madame Naila stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Can I read one aloud?" "Of course," Dadaji said. "But choose with respect. The hill trusts you." She picked a note near the middle, one the rain had not touched. It said simply, "I forgive myself." The silence that followed was soft but powerful. The words seemed to echo beyond the hill, as if the river below whispered them back. "I forgive myself." Ayan felt something shift inside him, something light but strong. He thought of his father, of the years of anger, and realized that forgiveness wasn't just for others. It was a door that worked both ways. Zara looked at him and nodded, as if she knew what he was thinking. She took a new paper and wrote, "Forgiveness is another name for peace." She tied it beside the other. The lantern flickered twice, as though bowing in agreement. Later, when the crowd began to thin, Ayan stayed near the lantern, adjusting the small metal chain. "The glass is cracking," he said. "Maybe from the rain." Dadaji came closer. "Or maybe it is growing old, like me. Both are part of Light's story." "We can fix it," Ayan said. "I can seal the crack with clear resin." "Good," Dadaji nodded. "Keep it alive a little longer. The world still has things to say." As Ayan worked, Zara sat beside him, writing new ideas in her notebook, plans for study, for work, for life. Farhan stood behind them, watching with quiet pride. The teacher helped the children pick up fallen papers. The shopkeeper shared sweets with everyone. The young mother rocked her baby and hummed. It felt like a festival, but softer. No noise, no fireworks, just the gentle brightness of honesty. When Ayan finished sealing the lantern's glass, he stepped back. "There," he said. "Now it will last through more storms." Dadaji smiled. "And so will you." The old man leaned on his cane and looked at the lantern a long time. "Do you know why I come here every night?" he asked. "To guide us?" Zara said. Dadaji shook his head. "To learn from you. You remind me that even when my bones ache, I can still grow lighter." He looked out at Nurabad below, its windows glowing, its river reflecting silver lines of moonlight. "This town was silent once," he said. "Now it sings." The lantern bell rang again, softer this time, like a whisper. "What does it say?" Ayan asked. Dadaji smiled. "It says the fifth night belongs not to the lantern, but to those who light others." The people began to leave slowly, walking down the hill in pairs and small groups. Each carried a light, some candles, some small lanterns, some just the glow on their faces. Farhan offered to carry the radio. Zara tucked her notebook under her arm. Ayan looked back one last time. The old tree glowed like a living star, its papers moving gently in the night wind. "Do you think it ever sleeps?" he asked. Maybe it dreams, Zara said. Of every truth it holds. They walked together through the quiet town. Windows opened as they passed. People smiled, waved, offered tea. Norabad was changing, one note, one night, one heart at a time. Norabad woke up to a restless wind. It carried dry leaves down the lanes and rippled the surface of the river until the reflections broke apart like tiny pieces of glass. The air felt different, thinner, sharper, as if something was waiting to happen. Ayan noticed it first while fixing a lantern at the tea stall. The flame wavered even though there was no breeze inside. Ami frowned and said quietly, "The weather has changed again." She looked toward the hill almost without meaning to. By afternoon, the sky had turned the color of old pewter. A faint hum spread through the town, not from machines but from the air itself, a sound between wind and thought. The townspeople grew uneasy, though they couldn't say why. Children stayed close to home. Even the radio stations went silent for a few moments before crackling back to life. Zara arrived at the stall with her notebook pressed to her chest. "Ayan," she said, "did you hear that? Like the hill is breathing?" He nodded. "I think the lantern's calling again." Farhan glanced up from wiping the counter. "Maybe it's warning us." "That sky doesn't look friendly," Ami sighed. "You three should stay tonight. Let the lantern rest." But Zara shook her head. It never rests when someone needs it. That evening, they started the climb. The path was rougher now, lined with broken twigs and scattered petals from the old tree. The lantern's glow was visible even from halfway up, brighter than ever, but unsteady, flickering as though something troubled it. When they reached the top, they found Dada G already there. His shawl whipped in the wind, and his cane pressed deep into the soft ground. "The lantern is restless," he said before they could speak. "It has taken too much truth, too much sorrow, too much hope. Tonight it must give something back." "What do you mean?" Ayan asked. "Every flame has a price," Dada G said. "When it gives light to others, it must also burn something of its own." The lantern flared suddenly, golden and wild, then dimmed again. The notes tied to the branches fluttered so hard they sounded like wings trying to fly away. One by one, a few tore free and floated into the air, swirling above their heads. People from the town began to appear on the hill, drawn by the strange light. Rafi came holding his son's hand. The young mother came with her baby tied close to her chest. Madame Naila followed, clutching her scarf against the wind. They gathered in silence, their faces lit by the unstable glow. Zara whispered, "It's like the lantern is alive." "It is alive," Dada G said. "It lives on what we give it. Honesty, forgiveness, courage. But it has reached its fullest flame. Tonight it will decide what stays and what returns to the dark." The wind grew stronger. A note flew directly into Zara's hand. She recognized it. It was hers from the second night, the one that said, "I am afraid to ask for what I want." She unfolded it and saw that the ink was fading. Only a few letters remained. The paper was turning translucent in the light. "It's disappearing," she said. "It's being set free," Dada G replied. "Once a truth is lived, it no longer needs to hang on a tree." Zara smiled faintly. "Then it's not dying. It's transforming." "Yes," Dada G said softly. "Light is a kind of transformation." A sudden crack of thunder rolled through the sky, but no rain followed. Instead, a strange golden mist rose from the lantern itself. It drifted outward, touching each of them with a warmth that felt like memory. Ayan saw flashes, his father laughing beside the river, the smell of machine oil and soap, the tiny screwdriver his father had once given him. Zara saw her mother's face, proud and kind, saying, "Don't shrink your dreams to fit the walls of others." Farhan saw himself as a boy running through fields. Fearless and loud, the golden mist wrapped around the hill like a living ribbon, then slowly began to sink back into the lantern. The flame steadied, smaller now but clearer. Dada G walked closer and placed his palm gently against the glass. The light reflected in his eyes like the last candle of a long vigil. "My time with it is nearly over," he said. Zara's heart dropped. "What do you mean?" "The lantern chooses new hands when the old ones have given all they can. he said. He looked at Ayan. It wants you to keep it alive. Ayan stepped back, startled. Me? Dadaji nodded. You have the patience of repair, the courage to listen. You will care for it, not control it. That is what light needs. Ayan didn't answer. His throat felt tight. The idea of the lantern without Dadaji felt wrong, like a sky without its moon. The flame flickered again, and for an instant, its light grew so bright that everyone had to shield their eyes. Then, with a soft sigh, the lantern dimmed, not gone, but resting. The wind stopped as if someone had drawn a curtain across the sky. The papers on the tree hung still. The silence that followed was deep and kind. Dadaji turned toward the crowd. The lantern has spoken, he said. Its work here is not finished, but it will rest in new hands now. Go home, all of you. Carry your light in the way you live, not in the way you watch. People began to leave quietly, their footsteps soft against the damp earth. The teacher helped the mother down the slope. The brothers held their candles close to protect the flames. Rafi lifted his son onto his shoulders, whispering something the boy answered with a sleepy laugh. When only Ayan, Zara, and Farhan remained, Dadaji handed Ayan a small metal key. For the glass cage, he said. Keep it safe. The lantern will know when to wake again. Ayan took it with trembling fingers. Will you come tomorrow? Dadaji smiled faintly. If the dawn is kind, Zara's eyes filled. We still need you. He shook his head. You have what you need, the courage to see. That's all I ever wanted for Nurabad. He turned toward the edge of the hill and looked out at the town below, lights glowing like scattered stars. Remember this, he said. Light doesn't die. It changes homes. A soft gust of wind passed through, and for a heartbeat it carried his shawl like a sail. When the wind settled, Dadaji was still there, smiling, watching the lantern. A week had passed since the lantern dimmed. Nurabad moved quietly, as if learning to breathe without a heartbeat it had come to depend on. The air was still gentle, the sky a kind blue, but something felt different, like the pause after a song before the next note begins. Ayan kept the lantern safe in his small workshop beside the tea stall. Each morning he polished the glass, checked the wick, and whispered to it, unsure if it could still hear. Sometimes he thought he saw a faint shimmer inside, like a dream of light that refused to sleep. Zara studied in the mornings and helped at the stall in the evenings. Her acceptance letter had not come yet, but she didn't stop preparing. Farhan managed the stall with new care, greeting customers with the patience Dadaji had taught them all. Every night they looked toward the hilltop. It stayed dark, though not empty. The tree still stood, leaves rustling as if remembering the hands that had tied their truths there. One afternoon, a letter arrived at the tea stall addressed simply to the Keeper of Light. Inside was a single line in Dadaji's handwriting. When the town remembers without being told, the lantern may rest. Ayan read it aloud. Zara's eyes filled. He knew, she whispered. That evening, as the sun dropped behind the fields, a soft breeze swept through Nurabad. Bells from distant temples and mosques mingled in the wind. Lights flickered in every window. Ayan stood, holding the lantern in both hands. It's the 7th night, he said quietly. Then let's climb once more, Zara replied. Farhan nodded. For him. For all of us. The path was easier now. The grass had grown back where feet once slipped, and small wildflowers lined the edges. As they walked, they saw others joining from different streets. Rafi and his son, Madame Naila, the young mother, the brothers, children carrying candles in glass jars. Nurabad was walking together again. When they reached the top, the tree stood silent against the silver sky. The air felt charged, but peaceful. Ayan set the lantern at the base of the tree and opened its little door. The wick was black and dry. He poured a few drops of oil and waited. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a faint spark appeared, small as a heartbeat. Zara knelt beside him and cupped her hands to shield it from the breeze. The spark steadied, then grew, a soft golden flame, gentle but sure. The crowd gasped quietly. The lantern had returned, not in brilliance, but in calm strength. Zara smiled. It's smaller, she said. Maybe it's wiser, Ayan answered. Dadaji's voice seemed to echo in their memory. Light doesn't die. It changes homes. One by one, the people of Nurabad began lighting their candles from the lantern's flame. Children lit theirs and passed it on. The mother held her baby close and let a drop of wax fall on the rim of her candle so it wouldn't blow out. Rafi lit his son's candle first, then his own. Soon, the hill glowed with dozens of small flames, each one carrying a piece of the same light. Farhan whispered, "Look at it. It's everywhere now." Zara nodded. "The lantern taught us how to build more." Ayan looked up at the tree. The notes were faded now, nearly white, but he could still read faint words: hope, truth, forgiveness, courage. They fluttered softly, like a prayer being repeated in 100 hearts. Then he noticed something new: tiny buds pushing from the branches. The old tree was blooming again, pale yellow flowers opening in the warm air. The scent was faint, like honey and rain. "The tree's alive again," he said in wonder. "It remembers us," Zara whispered. Farhan placed a hand on his sister's shoulder. "Or maybe it's telling us that every truth grows something." They stood together watching the flowers open. The lantern flickered gently, no longer burning alone. Later, when the candles began to melt low, the people sang softly, an old Nurabad lullaby that Dadaji used to hum. No one led it. It simply began, passed from one voice to another, carried by the night breeze. Ayan closed the lantern's door and locked it with the small key. He placed it at the base of the tree once more. "It belongs here," he said. Zara placed her notebook beside it. "For the next dreamer," Farhan smiled. "For the next builder." The crowd began to drift down the path, leaving one candle each along the way. By the time they reached the bridge, a trail of light curved down from the hill like a golden river. At the stall, Ami was waiting with a kettle in her hands. She poured tea for everyone who arrived: shopkeepers, teachers, children, tired workers, all with light still glowing on their faces. Nurabad, once quiet and ordinary, now shimmered with life. In every window, a candle burned. In every voice, there was softness. The lantern on the hill had given them a way to see themselves, and they had learned to keep that light alive. Much later, when the town finally slept, Ayan climbed to his rooftop. From there, he could see the hill, the lantern, and the tree covered in pale blossoms. He smiled and whispered into the breeze, "It's safe now." Dadaji, the light is everywhere. The lantern shimmered faintly, as if agreeing, and Nurabad dreamed not of fear or loss or loneliness, but of hands passing light from one to another forever. You have seen how a shy voice can become strong, how a small act can open a locked door, and how a town can change when people choose kindness. The lantern was only a light, but the real glow came from brave hearts. If you like this journey, share it with someone who needs a little hope tonight. Tell us which part touched you most and what light you carry in your own life. Remember, you don't need a hill or a mystery to begin. You need one honest step. Thank you for watching The Lantern of Hope. Until next time, keep your lantern clean, keep your promises, and keep your eyes open for the next small chance to do something good. Good night from Nurabad.